Okay, I have to be honest.
Hmm.
When I saw the topic for today's deep dive, I felt this overwhelming urge to just not.
To procrastinate on the episode about procrastination.
Exactly. I looked at the schedule, saw the word sloth, and my brain just went, you know what? Maybe I'll check my email. Maybe I'll finally organize my bookshelf. It felt a little too on the
It
nose.
would have been very on brand, but that resistance you felt, that urge to not, that's actually the perfect way in.
How so?
Because we usually think of sloth as a physical thing, right? The guy on the couch, pizza boxes
The
everywhere.
cartoon version, the lazy Sunday. It feels like the most harmless of the deadly sins. I mean, who is a little extra sleep really hurting?
And that is exactly where we get it wrong. The source material we're breaking down today, 12 Deadly Sins, Part 7, it just completely flips the script on that cliche.
Okay.
The argument here is that sloth isn't about physical stillness at all. In fact, the source opens with a correction that hits pretty hard. Sloth is not rest.
I want to pause on that because I think that's a huge distinction. I feel guilty about resting all the time.
We all do.
Yeah, if I take a Saturday to just do nothing, there's this little voice in my head telling me I'm being slothful. But you're saying the research disagrees.
Fundamentally,
Mm-hmm.
the source is adamant that rest, recovery, stillness,
Mm-hmm.
these are all biologically necessary.
Right.
If you've run a marathon or even just had a brutal week at work, stopping to recover isn't a moral failing. It's just maintenance.
So if I'm napping because I'm totally burnt out, that's not sloth.
No, that's survival. The distinction, and this is the crucial part, is that sloth is when avoidance replaces responsibility.
Okay.
It's not about the body being tired. It's about a specific mechanism in the mind. It's when you know something requires your attention, a conversation, a decision, whatever, and you repeatedly, even semi-consciously, choose numbness instead.
Choosing numbness, that feels a lot darker. It moves it from just being a couch potato to something deeply psychological.
It is psychological, and honestly, it's spiritual. Our mission today is to really explore sloth, not as laziness, but as a state of emotional avoidance rooted in fear.
And you mentioned something about busy people.
We're going to uncover why some of the busiest people you know, maybe even you, might actually be suffering from deep sloth. And we'll look at why the answer isn't hustle, but something the text calls activation with proportion.
Okay, let's unpack this idea of avoidance. The source uses this phrase, disengagement from what must be faced. That sounds heavy.
It is heavy. I mean, think about the mechanics of it. When you are truly resting, you're recharging so you can go back to your life.
Right.
When you're in a state of sloth, you are disengaging to escape your life. It's a total system shutdown. You see the task, you see the difficult conversation, and you pull the ripcord. You check out.
It's almost like a defensive maneuver.
It is exactly defensive maneuver.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the root cause the material identifies. We think of sloth as a lack of caring, but the source argues, at its root, sloth is fear.
Wait, hold on. Fear. Because when I think of fear, I think of panic. I think of running away from something. I don't associate fear with sitting on the couch scrolling Instagram for 3 hours. That just feels like boredom.
It feels like boredom on the surface. But ask yourself, why are you scrolling? Why can't you put the phone down and just write that email? It's usually because the moment you put the phone down, you have to face something uncomfortable. The source lists these specific fears. Fear of failure, fear of effort, fear of change, and fear of discomfort.
So the scrolling is just a pacifier.
Exactly. It's a numbing agent. If I engage with my work, I might fail. If I talk to my spouse, we might fight. But if I scroll,
You're safe. Nothing happens.
nothing happens. The source puts it this way. Rather than risk movement, the system shuts down. It's the freeze response in the classic fight, flight, or freeze trio. Sloth is just a prolonged freeze.
That makes the list of modern symptoms in the text feel like a personal attack. I'm looking at it. Procrastination, chronic distraction, endless scrolling.
Which one hits hardest for you?
Oh, the scrolling. Without a doubt. You pick up your phone to check one thing. Oh, let me just see if that email came in. And suddenly an hour is gone. And the thing is, I'm not even enjoying it. It's not like I'm having a great time. I can't stop.
Because stopping means facing the void. You're seeking numbness to drown out the anxiety of the unfinished task. The source also lists unfinished commitments. And this is a big one. Avoidance of difficult conversations.
That one resonates too. I mean, how often do we put off a tough talk with a boss or addressing a weird vibe with a friend? We just sit on it. We tell ourselves we're waiting for the right time.
Right, and you're just waiting for the stars to align. And no, you're not. You're in a state of sloth. You are avoiding the discomfort. The source calls this emotional passivity.
Emotional passivity.
It's refusing to take the wheel because you're afraid you might crash. So
Yeah.
you just sit in the passenger seat while the car drifts off the road.
Okay, so we have the freeze response, the couch potato, the scroller. I get that. But there's a concept in here that I'm struggling with a bit. The busy sloth.
This is usually the aha moment for people.
It just sounds like a contradiction. If I'm running around like a headless chicken answering emails, cleaning the house, how can you possibly call that sloth? I'm exhausted.
You are expending energy, yes. But are you moving?
Well, I moved the dust from the table to the trash can.
Laughing, sure. But think about the psychology of displacement. The source describes a phenomenon where a person appears busy, specifically to avoid what truly matters.
It's decoy work.
It is decoy work. Imagine you have a major project to write. It could define your career. It's scary. It's hard. You don't know if you're good enough. So what do?
You spend 4 hours clearing out your inbox.
Exactly. Or you reorganize your desktop icons. You go do the laundry.
Oh, I do this. I will clean my entire apartment, I'm talking baseboards and everything, to avoid writing one difficult paragraph.
That is the textbook definition of sloth, according to this analysis.
Mm-hmm.
You are doing work, but it's safe work. It's low-stakes activity used to protect yourself from high-stakes responsibility.
So it's like revving the engine while the car is in neutral. There's all this noise, a lot of gas being burned. The engine is hot.
But the car hasn't moved an inch.
Wow.
That's a perfect metaphor. You can tell yourself, look how productive I am. I did 10 things today. But if none of those 10 things were the one thing that actually moves the needle, you're just spinning your wheels.
The source calls this the displacement of responsibility.
You're substituting volume for value. And it's so dangerous because it feels virtuous, right?
Yes.
If I'm on the couch, I know I'm being lazy, I feel the shame. But if I'm busy, I can tell myself I'm a martyr. Oh, I work so hard.
Exactly. It's a hiding place that comes with social applause. We praise busy people. We don't realize they might be hiding from their actual lives.
But deep down, that anxiety is still there because that one meaningful decision, that thing that must be faced, it's still sitting there.
It's always sitting there. So we have visible sloth, the scroller, and this invisible sloth, the workaholic. Both are rooted in fear. But what's the long-term cost? Because the text makes a point that this isn't an explosion. It's not like you wake up one day and your life is in flames.
No, it's much more insidious. The word the source uses is erosion. It says sloth is deadly because it decays potential. Not through explosion, but through erosion.
That is actually scarier to me. An explosion I can react to. If my house is on fire, I call 911. But erosion, that just happens while you aren't looking.
Think about a muscle. If you lie in the bed for 3 months, your legs don't explode. They atrophy. They just get weaker and weaker until they can't support you anymore.
Right.
The source lists the consequences. Opportunities fade. Skills weaken. Confidence diminishes. It's a slow fade to gray.
And there's a psychological shift that happens too. The source talks about how avoidance becomes identity. This is the part that really freaked me out.
It should. It's the tragic endpoint of the cycle.
What do you mean?
You start by avoiding things because of fear. I'm afraid to give that presentation. But if you avoid it enough times, the story you tell yourself changes. You stop saying, I am afraid, and you start saying, I'm just not a public speaker.
I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. I'm not a creative person.
Exactly. You calcify the limitation. You turn a temporary behavior into a permanent trait. The source says, inactivity compounds stagnation. The less you do, the less you feel capable of doing.
You lose trust in yourself.
You lose trust in your own agency. You stop believing you can affect the outcome of your life.
That is the self-fulfilling prophecy. You avoid life because you're afraid, and eventually your life shrinks so much that you have every reason to be afraid.
And the source contrasts the short-term feeling with the long-term reality. It says, avoidance feels safe in the short term, but it quietly reduces freedom.
That's the trade-off. You buy yourself a moment of safety. I don't have to have that awkward conversation right now, but the cost is your future freedom. Your world just gets smaller and smaller.
And eventually, you're trapped in a cage of your own making. A cage built out of, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'm too busy right now.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture here. We're eroded, we're fearful, we're either scrolling or we're fake busy. How do we break out of this?
Right.
Because my instinct, and I think the instinct of a lot of listeners, is to just go full drill sergeant on myself. Get off the couch, do the work, stop being a loser.
And the source explicitly warns against that. It says the antidote to sloth is not harsh discipline.
Why not? Shouldn't we be tough on ourselves? If I'm being lazy, don't I need a kick in the pants?
Go back to the root cause. What is the root?
Fear.
Right. So if your system is shut down because of fear and overwhelm, what does screaming at yourself do?
It just adds more fear.
Precisely. It increases the system load. If you are paralyzed by the fear of failure, screaming, "You're failing," isn't going to get the car moving. It just floods the engine.
It reinforces the paralysis.
Yes. You might guilt yourself into motion for a day, but you'll burn out and crash even harder.
So if the boot camp approach is out, what actually works? The text uses this phrase, activation with proportion.
Activation with proportion. I love this concept. It's not about massive action. It's about matching the action to the current capacity of the system.
Okay.
The strategy is small movement, clear priorities, limited focus.
So instead of saying, I need to write this entire book, which is terrifying,
You say, I am going to open the document and write one sentence.
that feels insignificant.
It feels insignificant, but
Yeah.
physiologically, it is everything. The source relies on what I call the physics of psychology here. It says, sloth dissolves when the system experiences competence.
The system experiences competence. Unpack that for me.
When you are in sloth, you feel incompetent,
Yeah.
helpless. But when you complete even a tiny task writing, that one sentence, washing one dish,
Yeah.
you get a small hit of competence.
You prove to your brain you can do something.
You prove to your brain, hey, I had an intention and I executed it. You break the seal. The source notes that energy increases through engagement. Most of us wait for energy to strike before we act. We say, I'll do it when I feel like it.
But it never comes.
It rarely comes. The biology works the other way around. You move first, and the energy follows.
It's Newton's law. An object in motion stays in motion, but getting into motion is the hardest part.
Which is why the motion has to be proportional.
Yeah.
If the step is too big, the fear spikes and you freeze again. If the step is small enough, like ridiculously small, you can slip past the fear response.
You just nudge the car an inch.
Just an inch.
Yeah.
But once it's rolling, it's so much easier to keep pushing.
Now, I want to clarify something. We touched on it earlier. The opposite of sloth isn't hustle. We aren't trying to turn everyone into a productivity robot.
No, and thank goodness for that. The source is very clear. The opposite of sloth is not hustle. It is participation.
Participation. That feels very different from grinding.
It changes the entire frame.
Yeah.
Hustle is about output, speed, metrics. It's often frantic. And as we discussed, hustle can just be busy sloth in disguise.
Right.
Participation is about presence. It's about showing up for your own life. The source lists 3 areas: participation in life, and responsibility, and in growth.
So if you're having a conversation with your partner, are you just nodding along to get to the end of it?
That's sloth. Or are you actually listening, risking vulnerability, and responding? That's participation.
It's about being a human being, not just a worker bee, participating in your own story instead of watching it from the sidelines.
And it connects right back to the beginning, to the idea of rest. Remember, healthy rest restores strength for action. Sloth erodes strength by avoiding action.
So the goal isn't to never stop. It's to move with intention and then rest with intention.
Exactly. You participate in the work and then you fully participate in the rest. You don't live in that weird gray zone of half working and half resting while you scroll.
Because the gray zone is where sloth lives.
That's right. The source ends with a really powerful summary. It says, engagement may be uncomfortable, but it builds capacity. Sloth is deadly because it shrinks possibility. Action restores it.
Action restores it. That's the core message, isn't it?
I think so.
Every time you engage with the thing you're avoiding, you aren't just getting a task done. You are expanding your capacity. You're reclaiming the territory that fear stole from you.
It's incredibly empowering. It takes the shame out of it. If you're stuck in sloth, you aren't a bad person. You aren't lazy. You are in a fear state. You're frozen.
And the way out isn't to beat yourself up.
It's to find the smallest possible movement you can make. One proportional step.
So as we wrap this up, it's easy to listen to this and nod and then immediately go back to our old habits.
The irony is real.
What's the practical move here? How do we stop the erosion?
I think it starts with radical honesty. We need to stop looking at our to-do lists as just a measure of our worth and start looking at them as a map of our avoidance.
So look at the list.
Yeah, and ask, which item on here makes my stomach tighten? Which is the one I keep copying over to the next day and the next?
That's the one.
That's where the sloth is hiding. And you have to realize that all the busy work you're doing around it is just a costume.
A very convincing costume, but still a costume. And that comfort it gives you, it's an illusion.
It is. It feels safe, but It's a cage,
Mm-hmm.
and the door is unlocked. You just have to push it open.
And you don't have to kick the door down.
You just have to nudge it.
Mm.
Activation with proportion.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is just reevaluating my own busyness. I really have to ask myself, am I being productive or am I just hiding?
It's the question that really sticks with you. And if I leave the listener with one thought to mull over, it would be this. We often tell ourselves we're too busy to handle that one big thing, the difficult conversation, the career change, the creative project.
Right.
But if sloth is often a disguise, then busy is just a lie we tell ourselves to stay safe. So what is the one meaningful decision or conversation you are currently too busy to face?
That is the question. And hey, maybe the answer is scary, but that's okay. The fear just means you're pointing in the right direction. You don't have to solve it all today.
Just do one small thing.
One small thing. Thanks for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.